Hey guys, so I'm literally looking to break down the trades which we take actually for last week, right? So I have literally on my chart code. Okay, so this week was a little bit difficult, I won't lie, even though we actually did well, right? We did take the first 23 losses, right? Week, beginning of the week. So I will break it down right here. So when I actually did put on the foresight, what we are going to be looking at for that was on Sunday evening, right? We did expect buys from here, which price failed to actually reach into, right? So I we did not get price action coming all the way to this box, right? So um the week started right here, right? The week started right at this particular point right here, okay? So I have all my tools ready to actually go at what the week was trying to say. So this is where the week started much pretty much this was it. Okay, my bad saying it started here. Now, let's see what the week actually had for us. So this right here was practically Monday, and as we did see on Monday, we actually did get a quick expansion all the way to the downside, to the upside immediately. We actually had price markets open, right? So this was Monday, and I'll take this out. So going to the lower time frame, which is in 1 hour time frame, right? We actually want to see how the week started. Now, the first thing we actually did see right now, like uh, during market open, we actually did get the first setup on Monday. Right here, we did get a QML. Okay, we did get a QML. So this was where the week started. So we did get a QML right there, and after the QML, we also did have the presence of a blind spot setup. Okay. Now, initially, I did say we were looking to use this particular blind spot setup. But seeing that price actually did give a QML, I actually had to like use this particular zone, right? So with that being said, I will take out this particular level. Now, since this was our buy zone, if we are to refine this buy zone further, right, scaling all the way to the 5 minutes time frame, we should see a presence of um, a continuation pattern on the lower time frame, which is practically the 5 minutes time frame, when we are practically making use of the 1 hour, right? Now is now a question of which particular um, continuation pattern do we actually want to make use of. Now, as we can see right here, price actually did print this QML, which it actually did mitigate before it expanded all the way to the upside, and this, and then price actually did print this QML, which is more like a bigger picture, right? And guess what? This was the high that propelled the entire retracement, and then price actually failed to make use of this particular high. So this will actually tell me that we are practically valid. Okay. Now, if you're actually thinking about this other continuation pattern, right? If you're thinking about this other continuation pattern, now for this other continuation pattern, we actually had it being very valid. Okay. I'll come back to it why it was actually violated and what would have happened in real time price action. So having this, it means we are to take our entry from this particular point, right? This was where we were to take our entry and then our take profit should be this particular high. Okay. Now I did talk about the use of a specific tool which is practically the volume tool that, that would actually tell you where and what the week actually has in store, right? So going back to the 30 minutes chart, for example, I would actually want to see where the volume is currently, right? For let's say this section for the week, right? So for the week, I can apply the weekly volume. I can apply the volume to the weekly, right? But in this particular scenario, since this is pretty much the week beginning, right? I won't just apply it straight up. So I will actually have to use what the daily volume is saying, right? Now, we use this with respect to the daily levels and so on and so forth, right? So on this particular time frame, right? On this particular time frame, remember what we actually do say. We can see that the volume currently is practically at this particular point, right? So since we're actually having this volume right there, it means I actually want to see buys from below this particular point. Okay, so that was why we actually had the first buy, but my entry was not taken at that particular point, right? Because of the fact we actually did get a QML right here. Okay, we did get a QML, and if we had to take our entry, we needed to use the demand zone below the QML. Okay, so that was the reason for it. Now this is it. Okay, now we also see the fact that price actually did dip into this particular, taking this out. So going back to the 1 hour, we can actually see that price also dipped into this particular level right here, okay? Making this the presence of, well, an SNL type 2, okay? Now, with the fact you actually have the SNL type 2, whenever you actually have the proper refining process, it's literally going to take you all the way to this point, okay? Now, the fact that price actually failed to take us all the way to this point. And the initial refining did take us right here was enough reason to invalidate this particular zone, right? Because as a whole, this is particularly an SNR type 2. Okay, so we won't particularly trade with just an S with just a QML at this point because of the fact that this is the overall picture right now. Okay, so this entire picture was created even before the validation of this QML level. Okay, so now that actually did take me down to this point. Okay, so that was why we actually did make use of the zone. That was the reason why we actually did make use of the buy zone there, and seeing that price actually did tap us out before it expanded all the way to the upside. And as I did say, if you apply the volume right there, you will see that we actually have this below. So we are literally looking to take buys. Okay, this right here is Sunday. We're looking to take buys from this particular below this point. Okay, now this is the reason for the longs we actually did see on Monday. Okay, and I did have a lot of people telling me and switching up their sentiments because of um, price play right here. But also in the real sense, we actually have no control over the market. Whatever happens, happens, right? Now you could literally wait for lower time frame entries, let's say on the 5 minutes, on the 1 minute, continuations, and so on, right? But if you actually get to have a late entry right there, it's all your fault. If you actually decide to wait for extra and extra confirmations, right? Which I particularly don't use. Every single trade level right here is structured in a way that you get to have a clean entry, right, with a perfect tap rejection. But if price decides to give just a crazy play right there, then we actually have to accept every possible outcome that it actually gives, right? So this is it. Price gave a tap, and then we expanded all the way to the upside. So that is another 10 right there. Okay. And this was for Monday. This was particularly on Monday. Now on Tuesday, we actually did get a similar scenario where we actually did have price busting us out right here. So I'm going to the 1 hour time frame. So as we see right here on the 1 hour, taking a look at this, you agree with me that we actually have the presence of a QML also, right? This is particularly a QML right there. So mapping out to this QML, okay. Now since we actually have this QML in price, if you actually move to refine further, as I did say, taking a look at the 5 minutes time frame, we only look at taking specific trades or let's say patterns in respect to continuations, right? And not just trading them blindly. Now, seeing that we actually framed our bias from the monthly time frame, and if you're new, you should actually check out what we talked about continuation engulfing candles, right? Seeing that we framed our bias of the monthly, we are quite sure of a very a long-term bullish run. Okay, so that is the reason we have been literally taking buys and then literally playing buys majorly, right? So this is literally the lower time frame refining. Okay. Now, since we actually have this point, it suggests that our supply or demand level is literally going to be at this point. Okay. This is where we're looking to take buys. Okay. Now, since this is literally our entry point, it suggests that our SL is going to, this is literally the 1 minute demand level. Okay. So we did see that price actually played right here and then proceeds to bust through to this particular point, giving us practically over a 20 pips push to the downside, right? And I pretty much like making use of 30 pips max, 25 pips max also, depending on the scenario, right? And then price actually did bust through this, and then boom, we actually did get this expansion to the upside over 115 pips, okay, 150 pips to the upside, right? Now, if you actually check the previous week, we actually have been having a good, should we say, expansion all the way to the upside thoroughly, and it has been a good one. Now, applying the same tool right here, we can see this, right? So this was where the daily volume was at. So it suggested that we should look out for buys below. Okay, we should look out for buys below, and that is it. Now, price actually did take a lot of time to play out, which we would perceive as being normal, right? Even at this particular point, since we actually did a seed Monday, which was the beginning of the week, right? I can pretty much apply to make use of the weekly volume profile to actually understand what the weekly volume is saying, right? Or where I should be looking to play the overall trend for the week. Okay, so I will be switching to the 4 hour time frame because this is a whole lot of data to use on the 15 minutes. Now, again and again, I've literally showed you all of this, right? Okay, okay. All right, so this is Monday. This is Tuesday right here, okay? Now, since this is Monday, this is Tuesday right here, okay? This is Tuesday expansion, okay? Applying this back to the 1 hour. Now, this was Monday. This was Tuesday, okay? Now, we expanded all the way into Wednesday right here, and this was where we actually started getting um, urge to play long-term longs, right? Now, since we actually have our SNR level below, we're looking to play longs for the long term to the upside. Now, the SNR for the daily suggested that we play buys right here, we play buys right here, all aligning with SNR levels, right? Now, the weekly is actually suggesting that we play long-term buys all the way to this mitigation point. Okay. Now, if you're actually taking sales, this is where you actually want to stop your sales. But right now, we only did get the presence of buys, right? Now, if I'm breaking down the overall setup which you actually had for the week, which is more like the long-term setup, if I have to put it that way, or the weekly profile. Should I say the weekly profile, or should I say um the weekly expansion, if I have to put it this way? Okay. We actually have to like look at how the weekly expanded. So this is literally what I'm going to break down in the next slide. The price action right here, and then the reason behind the long-term longs, which we actually did call out to this point. But I literally did show you how to use the daily expansion, right? And then apply the volume to the daily in order for you to get a valid, should we say, bias, and at the same time get a valid setup. Okay, and what actually validates our setup, what we look out for, and then the hacks behind it, right? So on the next slide, also we're going to be looking at GBP USD and then the trade so far for the week.